Right, so stacking the deal, how does it work? So, anyone here knows what the national minimum space standards are?
639, yeah.
Anyone know? No? So, 39 is not right.
It's not.
Well, it's kind of half and half. So 37 is as small as you can go, right? And 37 is going to be for a flat, one bed flat with a shower room. But what I always do is I look at it and think, you don't want to do a whole building just in one bed flats, because not everyone lives in a one bed flat. So, and also, it depends what your exit is, what you think you're doing at the end, is, you know, whoever lives in the property at the end, do they want to have all one bed flats? And if you're in this area, it's in quite a residential, leafy, nice area, rather than sat in the city centre. So what I try and do, and you'll see, is I look at it and say, 39 is the smallest thing to do, and the 2 bed is roughly 60 square metres, so for every 100 square metres you're going to get 2 flats. It's a really easy way to do it, because if you ever see any property online, any details, you can quickly look at it and say, that's roughly what's going to squeeze in that building. So I said, so the average flat is 50 square metres. And whenever you've got a building, you always need to allow about 10% for hallways. So that's going to be, because inevitably, you've still got to build that hallway, even if you can't sell it. Someone's still going to need to go through it. So you'll say, for example, we've got 300 square metres, we'll take off 30 square metres for hallways, and then you can then take off your flats and whatever else afterwards. You can sometimes be incredibly careful and work out ways to reduce it down. My architect loves me because I usually get down to about 5%, then that means I've got 5% more to sell. So in this property, it was the ground floor. I think I did my numbers slightly wrong here because I took only one part of the spreadsheet out. There's 255 square metres of floor space. Maybe that's afterwards. It would have been 300, take off the 50 for the 30 for the hallways. But that roughly worked out as 6 one-beds, easy 6 one-beds, and then 5 two-beds. And you're like, Tristan, 5 times by 60 is 300, it won't fit. Well, technically, a one bed with an office that's the same minimum space standards as a bedroom is sold as a one bed with an office when you build it and withdraw on your planning. When it actually goes through and you sell it, it doesn't matter if someone moves into that bedroom, does it? So suddenly you can add space. And that's where you see a lot of people who are buying one beds, converting them to 2, because they're about 50 square metres, and they'll work quite nicely for that. And if you think about it, national minimum space standard is about 10.5 square metres. Add 10.5 square metres onto the 39, and we're at 50. So I think that's not a bad idea, but hey, I've done it. Told you about the free space, and then I say, whenever you're always looking at, and so free space is also to work out what else might I be able to get into this. Some people use it to get the upper hand when you're going in from the off. Usually I try to think, that's a bonus, that if I get it down the line, that's an absolute win. And then comparables, whenever you're looking to buy to let, rent to rent, doing whatever else, you're always looking to see what everything else is worth. Personally, what I try to do is I look at what's on the, hopefully I'll go to it, there you go, oh that's it. Personally, what I always try to do is look at what properties have been selling for in the last 2 years, not just in the last year, over the last 2 years, take a rough average of that, because the chances are in that list, they're not all going to be spanky. There's going to be some that are absolutely rotten, there's going to be some good ones, but the outliers you kind of ignore. The ones that are pretty much all kind of sitting roughly together, you take that. And then I look at what's on the market for sale. And then if you see online and they're all about 20 grand over, then actually just turn and sit to yourself and say, okay, well we'll go in about 10 grand under in case they get a hair shave on their price. Try and mix it between the two, because you're trying to work out what's the worst case scenario that I end up in when I come to sell this place. And you always want to be in the worst case, because if it hits the fan, you're the one that's got it all on the line. So on this, my first time round, I've got a few different sets of numbers. So I looked and I worked out, the issue I had was with windows. I only had windows on one elevation. So that meant I could only ever get studio flats, because I didn't have enough windows to be able to split it all up. So we put in 5 studio flats at 130,000, a one bed at 250, so my GDV was £900,000. And when I looked at the building, it was £335,000, and I sat there and I thought, what else could we do with this? And I thought, well, we could get, if we can convert the roof, I can get 2 flats in there. If I drop the ceiling, I can get 2 3-bedroom flats in there. And then suddenly I've now got roughly about an extra 190, 200 square metres of space up there. Then where I've got, if I can put windows in the side on each side, I can then actually add put another two bedrooms at the front and either side of it. And then where the space is at the back of the property, I could put 3 bedrooms down the back, and I could put stairs down into a basement. And then suddenly I've got flats that have got double balconies, so one at the ground floor out of the kitchen living room, and on your master bedroom looking straight onto the river. I've then got 2 flats at the front, which are probably a bit of not the ones that anyone's necessarily going to be jumping out for. And then we've done a cut-out balcony, so in the roof you can cut the whole balcony out and have a nice little walking area, which should look stunning. So that's what I did my original numbers on. And then having a rather cheeky architect and half-decent structural engineer to work out what we might be able to do, we've managed to go from 900 grand, which is probably what most people would have thought the property was going to be worth, to 1.8 million. And it's in the same deal. And the thing is, the land price hasn't changed. So this should be a good deal. So what I always do is, I thought this would be interesting or useful for anyone who's just getting started or trying to work out how to do it. And this is actually something, as Rachel will probably recognise it, but I've borrowed it from a lovely lady called Susanna Cole. Anyone knows her? She's fantastic, great knowledge and great content. But I take the GDV, divide it by profit margin, times it by 92%, and that knocks off 8% of cost. And the idea is there, because you're taking off the top number, not the bottom number, that's roughly going to include what your interest cost might be, what your stamp duty is going to be for buying it, searches, anything else along the way, and then you're going to take off your build cost. So that's a very simple way to roughly work out every time. Sorry?
Actually, just to repeat that, I can't quite see the numbers on the...
Oh, so I start off with, I've got a worked version on the next page, so it works a little better. But I've got a joint, take the gross development value, which to anyone, I haven't really explained it that well, is basically all the number of the properties inside it, total up the value of it, and that's what's called a gross development value. I divide it by the profit margin, so the idea is you're then taking off whatever profit first, and then only once you've taken off your profit, you then take off costs, just to allow for it, if you've got this very basic way to work it out. And then when you're converting a building, some people might argue you're paying a bit more for it, but I tend to be the type cheapskate that I can also part of like buying groups, so I get my finished costs quite low, £110 a square foot, and then that equals your purchase price at the end. So, if we had the £900,000, take off 25%, that's 720. At 8% of deduct the 8% of cost brings me down to 662. If I was just converting that ground floor, that's 255 square metres times by 10.76. 10.76, by the way, is to convert from metres into square feet, where you times 1 by 10.76 and it will convert, and then you times it by £110 a square foot, and so I know that the property is roughly 300 grand to convert. So if you think 660 minus 300 is roughly £360,000 I can afford to buy it, and the property's on the market for 335. So I'm like, slam dunk, yes, we'll have that one. But then, free space, as I said, always look for the free space, the wins, the extras you can get. And so now instead I've got £1.8 million worth of property. I take off 25% profit margin, I'm at 1.44. 600 grand then take off, my number's gone slightly wrong here, because I've kept the old one rather than update it, but I did do the numbers right to work out the purchase price at the end. But you get down to a purchase price of potentially 656,000, but I'm still buying at the same price. But if you hadn't already agreed to purchase, that does give you a bit more leeway and the ability to offer more than probably what someone else is offering in the area. So technically I've just added an extra 321 grand of profit to my deal.